IGP has again warned that there are indeed elements ready to destabilize the nation in the guise of protests, and that Nigerians must be mindful of these warnings coming from police authorities. And also, he said all units on red alert to prevent further protests. And I mean, what does this mean? I think he explained that. But how instructive are these messages from the Inspector General of Police, Kaide Wetokun? Now, let me continue on my conversation with my guest, and reintroducing them, I have Dr. Sule, who is joining us at the moment. Is a Kano-based journalist and academic, as well as Oyekachi Adekoya, a security and defense consultant. He's also the CEO, Aquilin Intelligence. So because we just heard the IGP talk about security matters, let me start with continue with Mr. Adekoya. If you can hear me, Mr. Adekoya, the IGP has spoken. How important is this press conference, and do you think the messages are clear enough?
Very, very, very important, very commendable. Again, I say we are learning. What this didn't occur during the last EndSARS protests. So if the IG comes out like this every day, gives a situation report, is commendable. It's part of what we talk about when you're doing crisis management. You must keep the people in the know. You must give the situation report, give the highlights of the activities of the day, and then also provide advisory. So very commendable on the part of the police management team. So the press conference is very important. The IGP again was very nuanced, said the right things that should have been said, emphasized on the espousability of the police and the posture they have adopted. What he has not said publicly is what we call the doctrine of force continuum, that you apply force as force increasingly becomes necessary. So what the IG has said by wearing red bands, meaning that alert level has gone up, I reckon we are now at security level 4 across the country by his own words, which means that the protesters may now have, not the protesters, the rioters now have very little room in their dealings with the law enforcement, because escalation is what is looking likely to confront them if they continue on this path. That's just my assessment of what the IG has said.
So, Ahmed, with these warnings coming from the IGP, do you think this protest should continue?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, protesting is a fundamental human right. People have the right to protest. So, by all means, people should exercise that right peacefully and civilly, and join the police to combat the looters, the criminals in their midst. Because remember, the police cannot do it alone. We are all going to the market together. We are all facing the pain together. And what we must appreciate is that even our government needs this protest. Because in the sphere of international politics, and sometimes local dynamics also, the president needs this protest to, enforce some changes. So now the president has a latitude to say, hey, Nigerians are protesting. It cannot be business as usual. Every government official must now use made in Nigerian vehicles. We don't want to air the people again. Or certain policies, and use the occasion of the protest to drive through certain negotiations, whether locally or internationally. So for the people protesting, they are giving government what government needs, the pedestal that government needs to ensure some changes. I don't want to say some things more than what I'm saying, but the protest is good and government needs it.
All right.
As a leverage. So people should protest civilly and peacefully, and help deal with rioters in their midst.
All right, then. We'll come back to some of the other matters. But let me also say that it's an extended version of the program tonight as we continue to get more insight and perspectives as the hashtag nationwide protest begins today. So let me bring in my second guest. Dr. Sule is a Kano-based journalist and academic. Good evening to you, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Right, so you heard the IGP. Let me start from there. How instructive are these warnings?
Well, actually, I had the briefing by the IGP. But you see, the security agencies did not manage the situation, especially in Kano, very well. You know, there are remote causes, or there are factors already on ground in Kano. Those factors are only waiting for a little time to explode. And this protest is like opportunity for those who are having problem in their minds to vent their anger. For instance, you know, when the present government came on power, it demolished a lot of shops belonging to so many people, worth billions of naira, and millions of people were rendered, you know, jobless as a result of that. That anger is there. There is a contentious issue of emirship. That anger also is there. People affected by this are only waiting for time to vent their anger. Then, thirdly, there is massive influx of children orphaned by the happenings in the Northeast, by the Boko Haram. That is those children whose parents were killed, and also those orphaned in the Northwest as a result of banditry. So many children roaming the streets of Kano. And even the government, the previous government even, went as far as Borno State to bring in some of the orphans in the guise of taking care of them. But eventually, they were allowed into the town. So if you are in Kano, you see so many children roaming the streets, and they can be easily used for any riot or any mass demonstration.
Dr. Sule, are you directly or indirectly blaming police authorities for how today's protest was hijacked in Kano State?
No, this shouldn't be directed only to the police. But you see, both the government, the security agencies internally, if you have this at the back of your mind, Kano should be a place where you will prepare more, because you have certain indices that you know is only waiting for a little fire to start. So if the situation was carefully attended to in Kano, it wouldn't have escalated to this level. You understand? Most of these children that I was talking about, most of them orphans from Northeast, from the banditry affected areas of the Northwest, are all now in Kano. And they are coming in the guise of getting a job. And not all of them will get a job to do in Kano. And you see them roaming the street. And these are the kind of children they've used easily. They've mobilized. You understand? Because the move that we've seen in Kano today is not that of demonstration. Because how can you be looting not only even public property, but even private people's shops, if the anger is on government? Because since the protest is against government policies, then why going to people's shops to loot? Why not restrict yourself to government? Right. You can see that certain.
So, you know, before we move on with other matters, what is Kano State looking like at the moment? Are people complying with the curfew?
Yeah, well, the curfew is there. Certainly, the roads are empty, and but certainly the worst had happened. A lot of people have lost their goods. Shops were looted. You know, so many shops were looted, especially those close to government house. There is a popular supermarket, Barakat stores. It was looted, hugely looted. And also the NCC, National Communications Office in Kano, is about to be commissioned, I think, next week. That also was vandalized.
Right. So, and I'm sure that's why the IGP has again warned that there are indeed elements ready to destabilize the nation in the guise of protest, and the Nigerians must be mindful of these warnings. So, Do you think organizers of this protest have a duty to structure or restructure their protests?
Well, you see, the problem with this protest, especially in Kano, nobody was able to pinpoint the organizers until a day to the protest. They came on air. So which means all this while, who has been behind the mobilization? Who was mobilizing these children? Because it can't just happen like that. This massive crowd that came out today must be mobilized. It must have been mobilized. So who was behind it? Because it was only a day to yesterday that the so-called promoters of the protest came out on air. They addressed the press. Not even at the press center. They went somewhere and addressed the press. In fact, not all journalists were aware about their press briefing. So you can see it's like something is hidden somewhere.
All right.
So you can...
Right, so Mr. Adekoya, let me come to you. You know, for Abuja protesters who defied court order, I mean, instead of Moshood Abiola National Stadium, they were seen going back to the Eagle Square, and we saw police resisting them. Tomorrow is another day. How do you think the police force should contain that if they go back there tomorrow? Or do you think they should be left alone to protest? Because, I mean, another feedback is that Moshood Abiola Stadium is quite isolated and no one will feel the pulse of the protesters in a place like that.
Well, issues of law are very interesting. Where a court with competent jurisdiction has ruled, then we always say that if you don't obey court instructions, then you will fuel anarchy in society. So if the court has so ruled, and the parties have been served, at least the ones in Abuja are known, and they have a lawyer representing them, and we saw the lawyer making effort. As a matter of fact, they did go to, part of what the law also expects is that, I mean, once there's a court judgment, you begin to make efforts towards following that judgment. They were within the vicinity of the Abuja Stadium. Some other elements tried to go to the Eagle Square. And of course, again, the police, as you heard the IGP say today, that they have intelligence, they have reason to be worried, they have reason to be concerned, because the area they have interest in is, again, whilst they want to make their voices heard the best way they can, you are now beginning to approach some of the places with which we project state power, and touching on the raw nerve of the country, even as a body state like Nigeria. That's not to say that the state is greater than the people always remain greater than the state. But if the objective of protest is to express dissent, dissatisfaction, and to raise call government's attention to some things that is causing dissatisfaction, I think that people can find lawful ways to do that without getting into a confrontation with the police. I do not wish to speak for the police, but if you look at the letter from the DSS, DSS has warned that they will also take measures if they find good cause to. Already they have said that there are some elements that seeks some other objectives other than the objectives of the peaceful protesters. We must dimension protesters from rioters. You know, so people should protest, please, by every lawful means possible, but they should do so within the limits and the ambits of the law. If the court has so ruled that Moshood Abiola Stadium, then that's the position of the court. I would advise them to follow the judgment of the court. That would be my advice. As for the police, instead, what they will do.
Dr. Sule, you know, I'm very worried about the trust deficit I see plays out between protesters and security agencies, especially the police. For you, how do we bridge that? And is this repairable or irreparable, as the case may be?
Well, actually, that's why I actually tend to a little bit disagree with the point raised by the IGP that the police were not overwhelmed. If in other places the police were not overwhelmed, but certainly that cannot be said with the Kano government house today. Because if you watch the clips coming out from that angle, certainly the police were overwhelmed. And it was only God that saved the situation. Those protesters could have moved into the government house of Kano. They would have taken over the government house today. So clearly, honestly, the police need to deploy more personnel to flashpoint areas. Because since now it is clear that these people are after looting. So departmental stores and places where you know that there are food items kept there. Okay, but even I have seen them even looting cement. I don't know what that has to do with food. If you say you are hungry and you are caught stealing cement, I think something is wrong somewhere. So I think the police need to bring more personnel, honestly, especially to flashpoint areas.
But if the federal government has continued to appeal to the protesters to shelve this protest, I mean, there was a world press conference to that effect yesterday. Is it too late for protesters to heed to the appeal of government and come forward for dialogue?
Well, from the kind of protesters I have seen today, I don't think they are the kind of people that even listen to radio or TV. I don't think that call has reached them, because they are looking racked up, not organized, not polished. So I don't expect such people to even listen to any call by the authority. They are just a bunch of hungry and people who are ready to steal.
All right. Mr. Adekoya, let me come to you. As a security consultant, one of your demands is end banditry, terrorism, and violent crimes, reforms of security agencies to stop continuous human rights violations and duplication of security agencies, and enhance the physical security of Nigerian citizens. What exactly are we not doing right?
Very, very good question. And this is where I want to perhaps stir some small controversy, but good one. The state governors are at the heart of the problems that we have when it comes to insecurity. And I say that with some measure and nuance. Because the then President Buhari wanted to pass the Police Reform Act, which will have given the state governments the powers to have state police. But the governors, through their House of Assembly, rejected that reform on the grounds that they did not have the money to pay for state police. And to the point that Alhaji Sule was making, you don't expect the IGP to tell you that, yes, we're overwhelmed. Clearly, they were overwhelmed. The police was overwhelmed. And that's why the police had been warning from the get-go that protesters should limit themselves to areas where the police can provide protection. In the case of Kano, with some profound respect to the leadership, the political leadership, I think it's marks of poor planning. Poor planning. Kano has one of the largest population centers. Kano is a historic place. Kano is very well developed. It's cosmopolitan. Kano has a lot of people. I don't get the sense that a lot of preparation was made on the part of thought leaders within the states. Given the issues already highlighted by Alhaji Sule, I think that the state should have prepared a bit better. And that's why what happened in Kano. And will it happen tomorrow? Only God knows. What is the governor doing today? We don't know. But clearly the police was overwhelmed there. And the police can be quickly overwhelmed across the country, because we are 220 million people with only about 300,000 policemen. We don't have enough people. So Nigerians must come to the aid of law enforcement and provide that second level support. We support the protests, peaceful, not the riots, not the looting, not the destruction. Nobody wants that.
All right.
So that's the way I see this.
Mr. Adekoya,
Yeah.
I don't think you got my question. So my question is
Yes,
about national security. What exactly are we not doing right? I mean, the president has been
which
doing
is
all he can to
which is
secure the
which
country.
is what I was
Okay,
which is what I was answering you. What we are not doing right is we don't have state police.
okay.
The president cannot be responsible for internal security only. That's not his work. That should be the jobs of subnationals. Governors are co-sovereign with the president. They have immunity. Immunity with the president. They jointly sit at the police council. So if you have state police, the state police will act as a force multiplier to federal police. What is at the heart of the protest? Food inflation. Why do we have high food inflation? I've said repeatedly on national TV. Look at where you have the flashes of crisis across the country. The flashes of crisis occur within the regions that are food belts. This problem has been incipient. It has been there coming for the last 15 years, coming. That farmers cannot go to the farm.
Mr. Adekoya, there are those who have raised concerns that state governors will abuse the creation of state police. And instead of state police, they have said, why not recruit more security personnel? Is this an option?
Not an option at all. You must take chain of command to where command is most effective. What can the IG do? One man sitting in Abuja, in force headquarters. We have several 74 local governments. He has over 1,400 and something police stations and police posts. Over 12, administrative zones that the police has. He just can't police the country 100%. Every sensible approach to policing is local. The argument that the government will abuse, that argument falls on his face. I would take the abuse any day of the state governments over and compared to the loss of lives and destruction of property as we see. The process will eventually mature itself out. This state policing is very simple. Look at weapons classification, for example. Class that the state police will only have service pistols. Limit the number of assault rifles that they can have to SWAT teams that they will have to respond. We have a post squadron, I think 1 to 79 squadrons across the country. Those squadrons are quick response force. Let the bulk of force and lethality rest with the federal government. Let the police be the first point of contact with the state police, be the first contact with small misdemeanors. How can somebody steal your handkerchief and you are running to a federal police, or they steal your chicken, or you can't find some ridiculous thing and you are going to the federal police? The police is overwhelmed. One IPO may be handling 300 cases. So when chain of command is far too flung from the area of need, you begin to lose the essence, the place of emphasis in local security. So I'm not bothered about the state governors because we have laws.
All right.
Once the laws are, governors will be held to account for their actions in office and out of office. So that's a no-brainer if you ask me.
But also, talking about state governors, do you think they are doing enough to complement efforts of the federal government?
Some governors are really, really doing a lot. Some just highlight the problem we have with our kakistocracy. We are not ruled by the best of us, unfortunately, and a man cannot give what he doesn't have. If the people who are eggheads don't join the political process, you can't come and be shouting your rights, your right on TV. Get involved in the political process. Let the best minds get there. And I do concede that we may need to change our electoral process, allow for crowdfundings. Listen, elections are expensive. If people cannot pull resources from, politicians cannot fund the people and fund meaningful campaigns, then only a few set of people will be leading the political institutions in the country. So to your question, some governors, for example, some governors have implemented 70,000 minimum wage.
All right.
Some governors are working with their local governments to provide palliatives. They are doing things. They are meeting with different people. And you can tell the governors that are doing that from the ones that are not doing that. Just take a look at where these issues are flaring up. And that as a pointer. So to your question, some governors are really, really doing a lot. Some others perhaps are not pulling their weight.
All right, Dr. Sule, let me come to you. Federal government says it is doing its best to alleviate the suffering of Nigerians as itemized in this report. So let me reel out this efforts. National minimum wage, now 70,000 naira. States expected to follow suit immediately. Import duties suspended on all essential food items to the end of 2024. 30,000 petrol-powered commercial vehicles are being converted to the cheaper CNG alternative to bring down transport costs. 20,000 students of tertiary institutions have already been covered under student loan schemes, 240,000 more to come. 50,000 naira presidential grant already disbursed to over 600,000 Nigerians, 400,000 more to come. 75 billion naira to be disbursed to 100,000 MSMEs starting August 2024. 110 billion naira approved for disbursement under Youth Investment Fund. Applications ongoing. Consumer credit scheme launched to enable Nigerians have access to credit facilities, and over 570 billion naira released to the state governments for expansion of livelihood support to Nigerians. For you, are these enough to address the high cost of living?
Well, honestly speaking, Nigerians are used to most of these rhetorics. You understand? Let's see it on ground. Let's see these things working. These are measures pronounced by government that they will do this and that and that and that. But people are actually pressed economically. What measure will you adopt easily that will bring down the cost of food items? People said they are hungry. Bring down the cost of fuel. Bring down the cost of electricity. These are things that can be seen easily, and it can easily affect a common man. So these are things that you will do to pacify people. Yes, to actually agree with you that you are serious. But if you keep on reeling out some measures that may take years, you understand, before actually manifesting, they may not actually align with you. There is need for government to look at things that will bring immediate succor, immediate solution to some of the problems facing the common man. Food items have gone up. Some attributed to high cost of farming implements, fertilizers and co. Transportation as well. Most transporters, especially of goods, use diesel. What is the cost of diesel? Even local transportation that people use petrol. What is the cost of petrol? Look at these areas, because these are things that can easily affect a common man. So I believe if areas like these ones are touched by government, it will make more impact than reading out so many policies that people may think is just out to pacify them.
Mr. Adekoya, let me come to you. Yes, upon inauguration, the president said he would take some bold and tough policies which will make Nigeria no longer have to live in debt. At this point, what policies of government do you think the president should reverse or adjust?
Thank you for the question.
In 1 minute, Mr. Adekoya, in 1 minute, we're out of time.
I can't answer that in 1 minute.
Please go ahead.
I'm an economist by training, my first degree, and I did go to school. I think that some of the policies of the president are sound, but he tried to do too much at the same time. Subsidy was not removed by this administration, was removed by the former administration, should not be reversed. Because there are people who have been fleecing this country, who themselves claim they are tired of fleecing us on the subsidy scheme. I mean, is it on PEF you want to talk about? You buy petrol in Lagos and you must sell for the same price in Maiduguri. You provide petroleum collection fund. Somebody takes from the depot, sells in Lagos, claims he took it to Maiduguri. Maiduguri people did not see it. Is it the ones that people bring tanker in and, they take the tanker back? There are a number of issues with subsidy. So that we called for the subsidy removal, it is gone. The issue where the president perhaps needs to look again is with our exchange rates. Removing subsidy and the exchange rates. No country truly floats its currency. Currencies are managed world over. I mean, take the US, for example. The US has a debt of $35 trillion as of today. That currency should be junk. Going by free market economy principles, the US currency should be a piece of paper, which is what it is in any case. But the currency is being managed. Perhaps the president wants to look at this issue with dumb accounts. I've always argued, I don't see why we would dollarize our economy and not expect, you have plenty naira chasing dollar. What do I need a dumb account for? There was time in this country where you travel abroad with your naira card and you cash at ATMs abroad. There was time in this country when you made a direct transfer from your naira accounts to foreign accounts abroad.
All right.
So the dollarization of the economy is what the president needs to deal with, and deal with the governors with food insecurity. Those are my key quick areas.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I mean, we'll continue to monitor developments as they unfold. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I've been speaking with Dr. Sule. He's a Kano-based journalist and academic, as well as Onyekachi